I've always believed houses remember things. Footsteps, laughter, moments that shape us in ways we don't recognize until years later. Maybe that's why, when I heard the front door open on that quiet afternoon, a familiar warmth rippled through the hallway before I even saw him. It had been months since Liam had been over. My son's closest friend since childhood, he had grown up in this house just as much as my own boy had. Sleepovers, school projects, birthdays marked by messy frosting and laughter echoing through the living room. But time moves as it pleases, and university life pulled them both in different directions. "Mrs. Hale," he called out, his voice deeper now, steadier than I remembered. "In the kitchen," I replied, drying my hands on a towel. I expected the same lanky teenager with an easy grin. But when he walked in, I barely recognized him. He had grown into himself, shoulders stronger, face more defined. His eyes, though, were exactly the same, warm, gentle, carrying a sincerity that made people trust him instantly. "Hi," he said, smiling, though there was something almost nervous in it. "Liam," I breathed, unable to hide my surprise. "Look at you. You've changed." He shrugged, cheeks coloring faintly. "So have you." I laughed softly at that. "Not as much." "That's not true," he murmured, so quietly I almost missed it. There was an unfamiliar weight behind his gaze, something I didn't understand, not yet. I offered him tea, just like I used to, and he accepted, sitting at the counter while I prepared it. He watched me with an attentiveness that made my pulse flutter unexpectedly. "How's school?" I asked, trying to anchor us into the familiar. "Good," he said. "Busy. A little overwhelming sometimes." "And my son? He's still your partner in chaos?" His smile softened. "Always." We talked for a while, catching up on life, but beneath our words was something else, something unspoken, hovering like the faint scent of rain before a storm. When he looked at me, it was with an intensity that felt far too mature for the boy I once knew. I shook it off, telling myself I was imagining it. Days passed. Then a week. Then two. He started visiting more often, sometimes with my son, sometimes alone under the excuse of returning something my son had borrowed or asking for help with a recipe or just wanting advice. It all felt harmless, comfortable even. But comfort has a way of hiding truths until they surface when you least expect them. One late afternoon, I found him sitting on the back porch, watching the sunset bleed across the sky like slow-moving watercolor. He looked deep in thought, shoulders slightly hunched, fingers tapping against his knee. "Everything okay?" I asked, stepping out beside him. He glanced up, offering a small smile. "Just thinking." "About?" He hesitated. "Life. Choices. Stuff that probably sounds dramatic out loud." "You've always been allowed to be dramatic here," I said lightly, settling beside him. He chuckled, but the sound didn't quite reach his eyes. After a moment, he spoke again. "You ever feel like you're drawn to something you shouldn't be, even when you try not to be?" My breath caught. I didn't know why. Maybe I did. "I think everyone feels that way at some point," I said carefully. He turned his head, meeting my gaze fully now. "Even you?" His question struck something deep inside me. Something I had been ignoring. The truth was, I had noticed him long before he realized. A shift in his smile, the way he listened, the steadiness he carried. I felt drawn to the kindness in him, to the quiet maturity that didn't exist when he was younger. It wasn't wrong, only unexpected, and I had buried the feeling the moment it surfaced. But sitting beside him now, I realized I had buried it only halfway. "I'm human, Liam," I whispered. "I feel things too." His eyes softened, relief washing through them like a gentle tide. "I'm glad you said that." He stood up then, pacing a slow line across the wooden boards. I didn't plan any of this, he said, running a hand through his hair. I didn't come here looking for whatever this is. I swear. I know, I said softly. He stopped walking, facing me again. But every time I talk to you, something in me settles. Like I've been searching for something without knowing it, and then I find myself here. My pulse quickened. Liam. I know it's complicated, he said quickly. I know the lines, the roles, all of it. But I can't pretend anymore. I care about you. More than I've ever cared about anyone. His confession drifted into the quiet evening air, mixing with the rustle of wind through the trees. I felt my breath tremble. Not because I was shocked, but because, for the first time, I allowed myself to admit that a part of me had hoped to hear those words, even though I shouldn't have. He approached slowly, like he didn't want to startle me. When he sat down beside me again, he kept his hands folded in his lap, giving me space. You don't have to say anything, he murmured. I just needed you to know. I looked out at the fading sky, feeling a warmth bloom beneath my ribs, gentle, but powerful. It wasn't reckless. It wasn't impulsive. It was simply honest. You think I haven't noticed the way you look at me? I asked with a quiet smile. His cheeks flushed. I tried to be subtle. You failed miserably. He laughed, the tension easing between us like steam rising from warm tea. But beneath my teasing was a truth he hadn't noticed. I was trying to be subtle too, I added softly. His head snapped toward me. You. I didn't mean for it to happen, I said, voice barely above a whisper. But you grew up into someone thoughtful, steady, gentle. And I started caring for you in ways I didn't expect. It scared me. I'm scared too, he admitted. But not enough to walk away from what I feel. The honesty between us felt like the final piece falling into place. We didn't rush anything. We didn't bridge the space between us with anything more than words. But in that moment, our connection felt deeper than touch. It felt like two hearts recognizing each other after years of orbiting the same place without realizing it. As the evening grew dark, he turned to me again. Can I tell you something? He asked. You already have, I teased gently. This one's different. He took a slow breath. I've always admired you. Since I was young. Not in the way you might think, not back then. But even then, you were the calmest person in the room. You listened. You cared. When everything else in my life felt loud, you made things feel steady. His voice thickened slightly. I guess my heart grew toward you before I even knew what it meant. I felt something tighten in my chest, emotion, fondness, something too layered to name easily. You deserve someone who sees you, I whispered. I do, he said softly. And I do feel seen. By you. The simplicity of his words disarmed me completely. We stayed on the porch until the stars appeared, scattered like quiet promises across the sky. The night wrapped around us gently, not asking for decisions, only honesty. When he finally stood to leave, he paused at the door. I'm not asking for anything, he said. Just, don't shut me out. Let this grow naturally, if it's meant to. I nodded, feeling a calm settle over me. I won't shut you out. His smile was slow, hopeful. Good night. Good night, Liam. When the door closed behind him, the house felt different. Not fuller or emptier, just aware, like it was holding a secret it was finally ready to keep. And for the first time in a long time, I felt aware too. Not of fear or uncertainty, but of connection. Quiet, steady, unexpected connection. The kind that didn't need explanations. The kind that simply was.